Tell Me What to Read is recorded on the lands of the Wongal people, and we pay our respects to all elders past and present, and extend our welcome to any First Nations people listening today. This is Tell Me What to Read, brought to you by Booktopia. I'm your host, Nick Wasiliev, and welcome to the show where we chat about the next great books you should be reading with the authors behind them and familiar faces who read them. All books mentioned in today's show can be found right now at booktopia.com.au, and the links can be found in the description.
Hello and welcome to the Booktopia podcast, the podcast for people who love
Topias.
Topias.
Utopias, dystopias.
Booktopias. And also, if it's fair to say, a podcast for people who love a good book.
What, Broden, when you get home of an afternoon,
the answer's book.
Let me get there. I
don't know what the question. I don't know what the question is, but the answer is book.
And that's how much you love books.
What's the question though?
I was going to ask, do you like books?
Yeah.
The answer to that is books.
Yeah.
So that's weird. Zach, what's your relationship with books? What was the last book that you read that made you feel something inside?
That's a great question, Mark, about books. A really good question. What was the last book I read that made me feel something inside?
Nothing sexual.
No. Probably no, you know what it's gotta be? I just watched the latest Marvel movie.
That's not a book. So really important to get back to what a book is. And we are the guests this week. I'm sorry for anyone who's just
tuning in.
We're Aunty Donna. So we are a comedy group. As you can see behind us, we're in the beautiful city of Melbourne. And we've written a book, and that's why we've been brought on to talk about that book. I bet you were expecting maybe a Tim Winton, maybe a Robert Drew, maybe you were
a Patrick Ness,
Peter Carey,
but no,
more people, more authors.
Who wrote Schindler's Ark?
Schindler's Ark.
You know that one, Tom Keneally.
Who wrote Angela's Ashes?
Charlie Kaufman, I believe.
I don't think Angela wrote Angela's Ashes. Anyway, we don't have to get into who wrote Angela's Ashes, but if you do, send us a letter, which is a short book.
That is a short book. A letter. What other things are books in disguise?
Yeah.
Like, you know how Transformers are robots in disguise. Of course, you could be looking at a truck, but not a truck. Actually, an alien. Optimus Prime. An Optimus. Well, that's one example of it. But in this situation, in the Michael Bay's filmic Transformer world, you could be looking at a Beats sort of portable Bluetooth speaker,
and that's Optimus Prime.
But no. Optimus Prime is the big truck, the leader of the Autobots. So what are we talking about? Things in disguise.
I think a stop sign is a book.
It's a short book.
Yeah.
As
short as a book could get.
But what is great about a stop sign? They could get shorter.
How could a book be shorter than one word?
The word could be shorter, or it could be one letter.
What constitutes a book?
What constitutes
a tomato sandwich? Tomato and bread, I would say.
That's a thing.
Well, I'm trying to think.
But what you were...
I'm breaking down constitute.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you could listen to a book.
An audio book.
That's an audio book.
A variant of the book.
Can we get back to tomato sandwich? This is something you're having often for lunch.
I could firmly say right now I've never eaten a tomato sandwich.
Yeah, it's just that it seems like an odd thing to have brought up a concept. Like if you were to say a ham, cheese, and tomato sandwich, it's like, okay, great.
I think that's what I wanted to say, but I wanted to save time. Who has time for ham and cheese? But what are your favorite short books? And how could a book be shorter than one word?
Can I just jump in here? I'm so sorry. I know we should be talking about books. This is the Booktopia podcast and everything. But I think that Broden Kelly here, he's one of the members of Aunty Donna. I think he got a bit of a bad rap there, Mark.
Or sandwich, if you will.
Wrap
or sandwich.
Wrap could be a sandwich. Because
a wrap can't be a sandwich.
No,
a wrap can have the same contents as a sandwich.
We'll get into wrap,
but it is a wrap.
We'll get into wrap because I think something that happened is you threw at Broden the question, well, why didn't you say ham and cheese sandwich? Well, I think people go, 100% ham and cheese sandwich, that's a sandwich. Broden was trying to say, with how few of a set of criteria can you still have something that you would define as a sandwich? So he was trying to challenge us. He was trying to push us. Is a fair a book? Is my question. Is a state fair?
No.
Where you go on a Mighty Mouse roller coaster or a Ferris wheel? Is that a book? Why not? It has words, signage. So this is where we get into the nitty gritty, the philosophy of the question.
Is a play a book?
It is published in a book.
Yeah, when the words are put into book form, then it turns
into a book.
It becomes a book. But when a play is performed, that's less of a book.
Would you say a street sign, because you don't close a street sign? Is that an open-faced book?
Yes, that's an open-faced book. Yeah, and when I guess when they're being made, they have to be forged in the heat of some sort of
steel
kiln or steel, and that would be a grilled book,
a cooked book,
or cooked.
Cooking the books.
Cooking the books. We've cooked our books.
Yeah, we owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Australian Tax Office.
It's how we're able to afford such a lavish lifestyle.
We have a book coming out that I guess we're going to get to a bit later, but I did want to drill down on. You talked about the Autobots. Now, does that include the Decepticons when you talk about?
Of course.
What I was talking about were robots in disguise.
Yeah,
right.
And often things can be in disguise. You could mistake a Lamborghini, for example, for a regular Lamborghini. It turns out that it's
Optimus
not
Prime.
I mean, potentially, because I believe in the Michael Bay world they scan.
Michael Bay, of course, the director and the creative visionary that adapted the Transformers property into the films we know.
And potentially, in a way, also an author, because the script, the play, the screenplay is a book.
I've always considered those films to be books.
I think that's wrong, but go on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's all subjective, I think, is what we're
This is where we're getting into the philosophy, the nitty gritty of it. What is a book? And I think it's interesting that you brought up Transformers before, Mark, because they call themselves robots. Yet by all definition, they came from a planet. They weren't created. They evolved much like an organic being. Yes, they are made of non-organic materials. But what is a robot and what is life? Are the Transformers robots?
Here's my question. When Optimus Prime is a truck, is he a robot? In that moment, is he a robot or is he a book?
Or is he a truck?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is he still a truck when he becomes Optimus Prime, the robot alien? He still has all of the components that one would define a truck. He has the four wheels. He has the exhaust. He has all.
Is he full of petrol?
Yes, he must be. The petrol has to be somewhere.
I always thought it was some sort of internal sort of battery that represented his heart.
And we haven't even mentioned the Allspark.
And the Allspark, of course, the thing that gives all Transformers their life, meaning and purpose.
Can we just dig in before we get into it? Because I do want to talk about books, the book we've been involved in the publishing of, and I very much do want to talk about whether the Transformers are aliens or robots or both, but that involves a few nitty gritty things. But I think
trucks,
or any sort of vehicle.
Or even electronic item,
any sort of that.
Or we'll get to Beast Wars,
and we will get to
when we get to Beast Wars. That's a whole kettle of books.
But my question about Transformers, when Broden, I think you really sparked something with me. Spark, of course, being the pun.
Yeah.
I think it's important for our listeners. They are more book fans than the Hollywood movie fans. Maybe we need to explain a little bit more before we get into the nitty gritty. What is the Allspark? When did it come in? Let's just catch people up on the lore of the Michael Bay Transformers film.
And also it's Mattel as a brand and how they've harnessed a toy and turned it into a canon of multi-billion-dollar
cartoons, comics,
toys,
books. Well, it started as a toy, I believe.
Right.
It started as a toy.
So did it, and then they turned it into a toy. So how did that happen?
No, well, then they turned it into a television show. So what happened sort of around this time period, you may remember this,
80s,
is that often toys were created first, and then the Saturday morning cartoons were essentially ads for the toys that have been created. I'm talking when
for clarity before you go on. Ad being an abbreviation or a shortening of advertisement. Yes.
Advertisement, which is a type of book.
Yeah.
So when I say this, I'm talking about Biker Mice from Mars.
Biker Mice from Mars.
I'm talking about Street Sharks.
Street Sharks
is another one. Pokemon to a lesser extent started as a video game,
but one of the biggest empires of IP in the world.
Absolutely.
In book, and it is a book.
And it is a book.
Can I ask a question here then? Where does the Rihanna starring Peter Berg directed Battleship fall into this? That's, of course, a film based on a board game rather than... interestingly enough, to Booktopia listeners, most adaptations are of books.
Yes.
But Battleship, of course, was an adaptation. It's a film I've not seen.
But, Zach... You can't just open up Battleship and start playing. What do you need to do before? Say you've never read a motherfucking book.
Wow.
An instruction book.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the thing, right? Transformers. When you watch that show, the Optimus Prime,
he's the truck man.
Maybe he's trying to fight
Bumblebee.
He wouldn't fight Bumblebee.
No. They're best friends.
I'm talking about his adversary. Obviously, Megatron.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a rivalry between Megatron.
Starscream.
Maybe.
Now, is this the aeroplane Megatron or the gun Megatron, bro?
Well, I'll leave that up to you and to our listeners. Let us know and let Booktopia know. When we're talking about Megatron, do you see the gun? Do you see the F-18 jet?
Yeah.
Or do you see maybe the T-Rex from the Beast Wars cannon? Now, maybe in an episode of Transformers, it gets to the end, Optimus Prime is about to be killed. What's going to happen? You'll find out next week. Cliffhangers as a concept. Created by who?
Books.
Charles Dickens. When he wrote his weekly... chapters almost in a weekly and the idea of keeping people wanting more was made from a book. So in a way, we can draw a straight line from Charles Dickens writing these weekly serials all the way to Megan Fox, and Shia LaBeouf on the bonnet of Bumblebee,
trying to help the Autobots defeat
to Linkin Park, playing What I've Done.
Can you then
we can draw
that line is direct? It's
Can you then continue that line to the ones that star Mark Wahlberg?
I don't.
It's a harder line to draw. It's a harder continuation.
Yeah.
But I see your point.
Yeah. So you don't see the link between the Shia LaBeouf starring Transformers?
I see Dickens writing Great Expectations.
Yes.
And I see that straight. I see that straight line to the end of Transformers 1. Shia LaBeouf, Megan Washington making out on the bonnet of a sentient.
Megan Washington or Megan Fox?
Well,
I think they're in Washington, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Well, Megan Fox. I'm so sorry. They're on the bonnet of a sentient.
Bumblebee. Yeah, they're on top of Bumblebee.
They're copulating on the top of a sentient thing.
Yeah.
Whilst
I don't think you see it go in and out.
No. But then narrated over it is Optimus saying, "We will defend Earth," and Linkin Park's "What I've Done" plays.
Yes. Yeah.
And I see that journey. I see the journey from Dickens and Pip going to town to learn the ways of the gentleman. To that moment, I struggle
to take it further than that. Me too. Even to Dark Side, the Moon.
Yeah, when the dinosaurs are robots and like the skeletons.
The Last Night, I believe. Yeah, that is less of a link to Dickens than me, for me personally. But I understand. It
opens up a big conversation. Maybe is for a tutorial more than a lecture.
And I guess it's like, are all the Transformers films then connected? all of the films that feature these sort of robots in disguise and all of the properties that feature the Transformers characters are all of these things in some sort of interconnected
universe,
of intellectual ideas. You know, is that what's happening there, or am I drawing too big of a connection?
Can I ask?
Clutching at straws.
I don't have an answer for this. I don't have an answer for it, but can you draw as a challenge, a literary challenge?
Okay, here we go.
The connection between the Transformers movies to Dirt Music by Tim Winton.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Dirt Music, the wonderful book that you can, I believe, purchase on Booktopia. Does it not feature Transformers in it?
I don't believe it does. From my memory of having reading, there is a moment where a woman takes.
And we can edit this later.
And eats it. She puts it in her mouth and has a lovely sort of like warming experience.
I remember her eating it.
She does. She does.
Sure.
From memory.
Sure.
So there is that moment in it. Is there a moment with Optimus Prime in Dirt Music? I'm not sure. I can't remember it. I do remember the woman.
I remember a moment, and I might be misremembering here. I remember there's a moment where the gentleman is struggling to open up. He's struggling to open up because of various traumas that he's experienced. He's struggling to let her in, and vice versa. And then over the rolling hills of the Western Australian shore, those beautiful mountains and the beautiful beaches of Western Australia, comes our good friend Bumblebee to save the day.
I don't know. If that
Haley Steinfeld is there.
Look, often when I'm reading a book, I'll sort of drift off into my own imagination and I'll start thinking of other things, maybe Transformers, something like that. I don't know, just one of my favorite things. And I'll sort of realize I've read 2 or 3 pages, but I haven't really
been fan.
So to be fair, during a period of me reading Dirt Music, yes, Bumblebee could have come in to the story.
Yes, Bumblebee, of course, the sort of lovable, childlike.
He speaks with the radio.
Yeah. Sharknet.
Who
wrote Sharknet?
What is Sharknet?
Broden's going to do a quick...
I don't know.
While Broden's
is it a
Googling book? Sharknet, Broden, can I come back to the another question, or do you have a point to Sharknet? Let's hold out till Sharknet. Broden has a point here about Sharknet, and then I do have a question I wanted to bring up.
Sharknet by Robert Drew, a great Perth. You're reminding me of great Perth
authors.
Perth. I like that book.
A great book, very confronting in its themes. But I have a question. I think it is related. I think it is related to this Perth book kind of stream.
I do struggle to see how, say, what Dickens did, how that connects to...
Well, he wrote books.
Okay. So there's a bit of a line there. Not as direct as the Transformers line, but there is a line.
Can we come back to the question, though? What is a robot? And maybe someone that understands the lore of the Transformers world can help explain it to me. What is a robot? And how are they? I believe them to be organic beings that have evolved on their planet.
They're more aliens.
So,
and they are tech based. I believe
I see them as an inorganic life form rather than.
I don't think Optimus Prime would call himself a robot, or at least wouldn't have called himself a robot before he escaped the perils of the Decepticons and hid himself on Earth. I don't think robot would have been in their vocabulary.
No.
But then we see the Transformers. We see them. And what comes to when you see something like that made of metal and steel and has...
No doubt it evokes a robot.
It evokes
But to me, a robot is a constructed thing featuring artificial intelligence.
It's a result of humans.
You know, absolutely. A creator... Beyond the philosophical, religious concept of a creator, sure, there are many that believe, and I don't want to get in the way of this, many that believe we are creations of a creator. And I'm not getting into that. I'm talking about a physical being created an inorganic replication of life using artificial intelligence. Is that a transformer?
That's a very interesting question, because when you say organic, let's get into this idea of organic. Now, on the Transformers home planet,
Please, and this is the
which is,
detail I
of
need.
course, called
No.
maybe our producer for this podcast could look up what is the planet where the Transformers are from.
What is the name of that? It's something.
Thank you.
Either Mega or
I think it's Unicron.
Uniqlo.
Uniglow.
Uniqlo.
Is it Uniqlo?
Uniqlo.
Is it
affordable basics?
Go on, and I'm on this
because this is my question.
Cybertron.
Of course, Cybertron. When they're on Cybertron, how is a new Transformer made? Now, I would argue it's not given birth to. I would argue it is not created in some sort of egg as other organic life is. I would say it is constructed.
Okay.
Controversial.
Well, how else? Well, I don't see a situation where a robot is, well, not a robot. Let's say we're on a Transformer is laying an egg.
Well, do we not construct a child in the womb?
Sure.
Do we not use the building blocks of DNA to construct a child in the womb? And is it so different for an inorganic life form to construct or to give birth to its prodigy in such a way?
I think this is an interesting philosophical argument, and it is related to books, and we'll get to that in a moment.
I think we should jump to what we're here to do, which is to talk about our favorite, legitimately, our favorite books.
A book we're very proud of.
Our book is your favorite book?
Yeah.
Because I was going to read out my top 4, and then you could read out your top 4 books.
I would love to.
But we've deliberately for today gone through our favorite books that you can buy on Booktopia today.
Yeah. So, and there'll be links to these, I believe, underneath in the description, where you can click and see all of our favorite books.
Yeah.
Do we want to go around this and just do one? Yeah. Starting from 4 and working our way down.
There might be some double ups. I just want to say we have not talked about these lists. So if there are double ups, apologies. And if it's a little, we all have very different taste. So if it's a little bit all over the place, a little bit crazy, just be prepared for that.
Cool.
Broden,
all right. This is my favorite book. I'll start with number 1 because I don't know how much time we have. It's by an awesome and wonderful author called Caroline Rowlands, and it's a hardback, is the one I have at home that I've worn to pieces. It's called Transformers: Robots in Disguise, where Crown City comes to life. I don't want to ruin it for anyone at home, but it is a absolute page front to back read. I was gripped. I
read that after your recommendation, Broden, and I was blown away.
I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go next. This is a book that has meant a lot to me. This is number 4 for me. If that's right, I'm working my way towards.
Yeah, you just do whatever you want.
Yeah. It's a collection of smaller books that sort of link together. But this is how I read it. I didn't experience it as individual sort of chapters. Sure. I bought this collected edition, and that's of course Transformers, the manga, volume 1.
Who's that by?
That is by now. Forgive me if I get the pronunciation wrong here. Masumi Kaneda, I believe is the writer, and that is just filled with the most incredible stories. It is this story about 2 feuding factions that come from an alien planet who've made their way to Earth, and that feud has continued on Earth. And Romeo Juliet-esque type story.
Yeah, sure. Zach?
So for me, I went with something a little bit different for my number 4. I am a big non-fiction fan. I am a big sort of narrative fan, but I also love a great coffee table tome. Something that you can pick up, that you can flick through.
Is this? I've got a feeling. Is it a Jim Sorensen?
It is, I believe, a Jim Sorensen. I'd have to check the author. Yes, it is Jim Sorensen.
Oh, nice.
Now, Jim Sorensen really knows his stuff, and he wrote my personal favorite of the non-fiction kind of books, Transformers: A Visual History.
Do you have the limited edition?
I do. It has the sleeve. It's hardcover. It has this amazing illustration on the front of one of the Transformers, and just a lot of a lot of visual imagery throughout the book, a very visual tome, just showing us the history of not just in-world, the history of the Transformers, but also the history of the property. We see some of the illustrations in the comic books. We see some of the concept illustrations of the film. A really great deep dive into the Transformers world.
If I may, I have this book at home too, and I love it. I love this book.
Really?
And I think people would like to know it ships in 4 to 8 days wherever you are. And it accrued me 83 Qantas points when I bought it. Off Booktopia.com.
I would love to get it, but I have a limit. I don't spend more than $83 on a book.
You're in luck. This book is $82.90.
Oh, well, I will be purchasing that immediately. I mean, if my two best friends whose opinions on books I consider very highly, if you think this is a great book, I'm in.
Any other books we wanted to talk about? I think we're almost done. We're in the final. Mark, is there any other books you really wanted to talk about?
There's one more book that I really, really like. Now, this is a book by a couple of authors. Do you guys know Lewis Tunstall?
Tunstall, yeah.
Tunstall's sometimes I mispronounce.
Yeah, sometimes
the names of my favorite authors.
Yeah, sure.
That's just the thing that I do. Thomas Wolfe, I believe, wrote on this.
Yeah.
Now, this is a book called The Natural Language Processing with Transformers. Now, when I say Transformers,
yes,
you're thinking robots in disguise.
I was, until you said the title. This is the one about building language applications with Hugging Face. Yes.
With Hugging Face.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And what is that?
Well, what it is it's fascinating. I mean, since their introduction in 2017, Transformers have quickly become the dominant architecture for achieving state-of-the-art results on a variety of natural language processing tasks.
And what does that mean?
Well, what that means, Broden, because I think you're thinking I say this and you're thinking robots in disguise. You're thinking a Lamborghini that turns into some sort of robot.
Well, Mark, say I was a data scientist or a coder.
Yeah.
What would that mean to me?
Well, what that would mean to you is that this practical book, and the one that I have is revised in full color, it shows you how to train your mind. It has a lot to do with birds as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
We're in the final stage. Is there anything else we should talk about on this podcast?
I don't think so.
Have we? Can I just ask?
Yeah.
Have we covered the robots in disguise?
We can check in with our producer. Have we talked about Transformers
in detail or sort of?
Well, my question is, are they robots?
Or are they in disguise?
No, our producer's saying we haven't talked about Transformers yet.
Yet or enough?
Well, either.
Because I can't remember. I have Memento.
We've got to talk about this book at some point, which is our Always Room for Christmas book. Available on Booktopia, funnily enough.
We did the introduction for it, Wink.
If you are a fan of a little known thing called Transformers, you were gonna. This book is jam-packed with Transformers. Now they're in disguise, so you won't know what is and what is not.
Show them a few pages,
but that's the thrill of the book.
Can we pull back the curtain a little bit for a moment? And we'll show you some examples. So on Zach's going to pull up a page to show you all who are watching the visual element of this podcast,
and I'll describe it.
So show us a shot.
So we've got here an image of a man.
Just get that right up there.
We've got here an image of a man played by Mark Bonanno, or who looks remarkably like Mark from Aunty Donna. He's lifting up a Christmas hat that was used as a sort of cloche, I would say, a material cloche to cover what is revealed to be a pud. Now, that pud is sitting upon a plate. Mark has a napkin, Christmas-themed jumper. He is wearing circular glasses, and there is a sort of gold. It almost seems
I think get
like
to the point.
It does refraction of the light.
I think get to the point.
Now the question is, I know the answer. What of these things is a transformer in this image?
Now, should we give it away, or should we?
Well, I'd like for you to guess, and I could tell you.
Well, answer. I know.
Oh, you know.
Of course I know.
Well, Broden probably is the only one that doesn't know the answer to this question.
Oh.
Which of the things that I just described was the transformer?
are the glasses.
Broden, I've got some news for you. Ever since Stanley Tucci transformed and showed us a little Bose Bluetooth speaker, he revealed that the world of Transformers is now in the era of nanotechnology. Broden, that golden sparkle that I described, seemingly a photonic decoration, is in fact a nanobot transformer.
That's awesome.
In disguise.
Ready for Stanley Tucci to come along and turn that into a Bluetooth speaker.
And Mark is it's revealed at the end of the book that Mark transforms into a robot.
Into a truck.
Into a truck robot.
Into a truck robot. And so that's pretty interesting stuff.
But I think we covered it all today.
We didn't get to Beast Wars.
We didn't get to Beast Wars.
Well, maybe we come back another time.
Optimus Primal, anyone?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll cover the Beast Wars on our own podcast, the Aunty Donna and Friends Go to the Shops podcast, I believe it's called. I
think it's just called Aunty Donna podcast.
I missed that email.
Yeah, it's been that for a number of years.
If we can do a little call to action to anyone listening to this who loves a book, get yourself a little book tonight.
Why not? What's stopping you from jumping on booktopia.com.au?
Apart from your ego.
Sure, we can tell you to buy Always Room for Christmas Pud. Maybe get it for a nephew or a niece. It's
any number of your nibblings.
Maybe you're a fan of Aunty Donna and you know the sketch. Great, it works. Maybe you're not. Because you'll just love it anyway, because it's about that. We always find a little bit of room in our tummies for puds. Sure, we could do that, but that would be cynical. It would be gross. We're telling you, get any book.
Get any book.
Get a book you've never heard of.
And maybe find a little room in your pocket, in your spending money, for Always Room for Christmas.
No, I think that's a little tacky. We think you should just get any book you want. I'm sorry if that was rude.
No.
I think that's a little tacky.
It is.
I just think
it's what I was going for.
Plug it like that. Yeah. I think just tell them to get any book. But if you want to get our book.
And this has been the Booktopia podcast this week, hosted by Aunty Donna. Next week, we have the incredible writer, the Tim Winton will be in next week to host the Booktopia podcast.
Tim Winton has recently written a book about the beach.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Set in Perth. And it's all about robots in disguise.
It's called Transformers in Perth by Tim Winton.
And he'll be joined by very special guest, William Shakespeare.
And Dickens.
Dickens will be there.
And the Bronte sisters. But until next week.
And LeBron James.
Until next week, keep reading books.
Thanks to all of our guests on today's show. Remember, all books mentioned in today's show can be found right now at booktopia.com.au. Links can be found in the description. We would also love to hear what you're reading, so feel free to join the conversation on social media. Search Booktopia on your favourite platform and join our book club. We'll catch you for our next episode, but until then, thanks for listening and never stop reading.